You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from NVIDIA to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, let's get down to business for your Hot Options Report for Monday, November 17th, an absolutely wild day out there on the streets. Listeners, we had markets whipsawing all over the place. We'll get to that in a second. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as from the network that so many of you are enjoying these days. Make sure you subscribe to the full network wherever you get your favorite podcast. If you're not, then, of course, if you want to check out what's going on the pro, only one place to get access, the OptionsInsider.com/pro, P-R-O, is the place to go. And, of course, if you want to check out all this data we're talking about on this show and a whole heck of a lot more that we don't have time to get to on the show, we really just scratched the surface here for you. TheHotOptionsReport.com is the place to go to learn more. We created a whole report just for you folks listening to this show. You can't beat the price. It is free. You can't beat the data. It's going to be better than what most of your brokers are bringing to the table. TheHotOptionsReport.com is the place to go as we get into the maelstrom that was the markets today. S&P whipsawing all over the place before closing down nearly a full % on the day. VIX cash following suit, moving all over the place, ending up closing up about 2.5 points, or about 22.38 in VIX cash land, putting up a lot of paper today, as you would expect. 1.65 million contracts. That's almost 2x the ADV of a little bit north of 900K out there. So a very active day in VIX land. The hot option on a very hot day, 96,000 of the NOV 35 calls. Average price for these, about a nickel. So there is some OI on this strike. Someone could be closing on these, but if you want to roll the bones on some upside, listeners, there you go. VIX NOV 35s for a nickel. Let's keep going out to SPY, listeners. As we mentioned, SPY and the SPX whipsawing around all over the place today. A SPY closing off nearly a full % on the day. 665.67 is where it went out, putting up over 11 million contracts, 11.1 million contracts to be precise, against an ADV of around 9.75 million. So blown away expectations today. The hot option on a very hot day, 360,000 of these 672 calls. Average price for these, about $1.15. Remember, we were whipsawing all over the place. So you may say, those sound kind of wild. Why would you pay that for those? But then again, we had multiple opportunities to get out of those intraday, listeners. Just a wild day out there in SPY land. As we keep on rolling to the SPX, same deal, off nearly a full %. SPX closing today, listeners, 66.72.41 out there, listeners. So just a hot day out there in the SPX, again, off nearly a full %, putting up nearly 5 million contracts, just a tick below 5 million against an ADV of about 4.33 million. So a pretty hot day in the SPX as well. The hot option on a very hot day, 118,000 of the 66 half puts. That seems like a wild strike, but we started playing with those levels intraday. They were looking more and more relevant as the day went on out there, listeners. So interesting stuff out there in SPX today, as well as we whipsawed all over the place. Average price for those, nearly $4. So wild stuff out there in SPX as we keep on rolling out to small caps. Small caps have been wild for a while. Today, no exception, off nearly 2%, 1.99% to be precise, closing 232.76. So all these strikes we've been talking about for a while to the downside, 235s, 231s, starting to light it up out here today, listeners. Putting up 2.35 million contracts against an ADV of about 1.8 million. So a very hot day in IWM. The hot option on a very hot day, 102,000 of the NOV 230 puts. So going right back to the November downside. Average price for these, nearly $2. Okay, if it was hot in the S, if it was hot in small caps, it was a hot day in the Qs. The Qs giving up nearly a full percent today as well, 0.85%. To be precise, closing 603 and 2/3 today, putting up nearly 6.3 million contracts. That's pretty much about exactly a million contracts north of their ADV, which is right around 5.3 million. And the hot option on a hot day in the Qs, 202,000 of these 610 calls. These are expiring today, listeners. Average price for these, $1.37 out there, listeners. You had some moments intraday as we were whipsawing to maybe get out of those, but end of the day, not looking great. Let's shift our gaze now to single name equities. Listeners, was it a hot day on the single name front? The answer was no. Only cost you 438,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today. Gets us to our old pal Open. Open giving up some of the ghost today, closing off a little over a quarter, or about 784 is where it went out today, listeners. About 3.5% to the downside. Again, putting up 438,000 contracts. For the number 10 spot, the hot option in Open today, 64, almost 65,000. Of the 8 calls expiring this week, average price for these, 43 cents. So you know the drill. Open needs to get out of gear if you want those bad boys to pay off. As we keep on rolling to number 9, the monster, a.k.a. MicroStrategy, a.k.a. Strategy, a.k.a. MSTR. Giving up the ghost today. Crypto continuing the sell-off. Make sure you're checking out the crypto rundown on our network if you are intrigued by all this. Talked a lot about MSTR and a lot of other names out there today, listeners. MSTR closing today 195.42, off about 4 1/3 or a little over 2, about 2.2%. To the dark side, putting up 486,000 contracts. For the number 9 spot, the hot option in the monster today, 32,000 of the Nove 230s. Average price for these, nearly 30 cents, listeners. So these are expiring this week. 30 cents for those. I think a lot of people would say sold to you at that level, listeners, if you can still get them. That's a heck of a covered call if you are so inclined. Out there in the monster, as we keep on rolling to number 8, AMD, taking it on the chin today, closing 240.52, off about 630 or about 2.5%. So quite the beating in AMD land today. AMD putting up a little over 500,000 contracts, 509,000 contracts to be precise. The hot option in AMD land today, 26,000 of the 250 calls. Average price for these, about $4.66. So they are not giving these away, listeners. 250, can we sniff that again by the end of this week? And then, of course, get about $4.66 beyond it to pay these calls off if you buy them? We'll keep an eye on it, listeners, as we keep on rolling to number 7, the artist formerly known as Facebook. It is Meta. Threatening the par strike yet again in the wrong direction. 602.01 is where it went out today, off about $7.50 or about 1.25%. So once again, they are coming for Meta, putting up 518,000 contracts. For the number 7 spot out there, the hot option, nearly 18,000 of these 630s. Average price for these, $2.66. These are going out the end of the week. So once again, if you're looking for opportunities for covered calls, I don't think you can still get these for this level, but if you could, that would be a screaming sale. As we keep on rolling to number 6, it's Palantir, listeners, selling off a wee bit today as well, closing 171.25, off about 2 3/4 or about 1.6%, putting up 577,000 contracts. For the number 6 spot, the hot option out there today, 36,000 of the 180s. Average price for these, $1.75. That also is a bit out there, but then again, Palantir, they can move that in a heartbeat. We do have NVIDIA earnings coming up later this week, so maybe that'll give a shot in the arm to the market, make some of these strikes seem a little less outlandish. As we keep on rolling to number 5, it's our old pal Alphabet Class A, aka Google. 285, pretty much exactly, up about 8 2/3, a little over 3%. Bucking the trend today, news coming out. Buffett has a pretty decent stake in Alphabet, so that's always good for a little bit of a pop. And today it's good for a little over 3% and 673,000 contracts. The hot option out there today, 55,000 of the par calls, the 300 calls that expire this week. Average price for these, nearly $2. So once again, they are not giving away the upside out here in Alphabet. As we keep on rolling to the fruit company, aka Apple, aka Warren Buffett's former favorite tech holding. Maybe he's cooling on that a little bit right now. 267.5, off nearly $5, or about 1.8% today. So they came for Apple a little bit today. It's still up nearly 100 handles from where they bought their stock back not too long ago. So still on quite the run, putting up 679,000 contracts today. The hot option out there, 44,000 of the 270s. Average price for these about $2.50. So again, out of the money, but not exactly outlandish. It's kind of quintessential Apple paper at the end of the day, listeners. As we keep on rolling, keeping it in A tech names, let's go out to the Amazonians. Amazon closing today, 232.87, off $1.82, about 0.75%, putting up 733,000 contracts. For the number 3 spot, the hot option out there today, 31,000, almost exactly, of the 240s. Average price for these, about $1.08. So once again, looks like a pretty attractive covered call level if you can get it. As we keep on rolling to number 2, listeners. Usually our number 1 name, falling to number 2 today, it's NVIDIA, 1.92 million contracts. Guess a lot of people are keeping their powder dry ahead of the big earnings announcement later this week. NVIDIA closing 186.60, off about 360, or nearly 2%, putting up 1.92 million contracts. For the number 2 spot, the hot option on this earnings week session, 97, almost 98,000 of the par calls, the 200 calls. Average price for these, 236. Once again, not a bad covered call, even if you do get there. A lot of people will probably let their stock go at that level. As they keep on rolling to number 1, listeners, it's Tesla. You know it, you love it. Maybe you hate it out there. Either way, it's number 1 with a bullet today. Tesla closing 408.92, up about $4.60, or a little over 1%. Putting up 2.25 million contracts. That's kind of light volume, but it's enough for the number 1 spot today. Usually NVIDIA blows the doors off that, but not today, listeners. The hot option in Tesla today, 111,000 of the 420 calls, an appropriate strike for Tesla, if ever there was one. Average price for these, $8.26. So once again, pricing in some aggressive upside if you are indeed buying these. If you're selling them, you might have to hold on tight this week, but again, not a terrible covered call level at the end of the day in Tesla as well. Will any of these upside strikes remain relevant later this week? I guess we'll find out when NVIDIA makes their announcements. We'll keep an eye on it, listeners. Stay tuned to the Hot Options Report throughout the rest of the week. And of course, stay safe out there.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.